Thank you all for coming here, for being here and sharing this space. I appreciate it. I appreciate your time. For those of you who are in the first session, thank you for coming back. Hopefully that means that I did something correctly. For those of you who are not here, I'll just give another brief intro into who I am and the work that I do. And we'll talk a little bit about creating a culture of care, that CCC program that we talked about, and why all these sessions are so important. So again, my name is Burton Patterson. I am the Director of Prevention and Education for Indiana Coalition to End Sexual Assault and Human Trafficking. I do a lot of prevention work across the state. I work with college students and high school students primarily, talk a lot about healthy masculinity, gender norms and gender roles, how to redefine those, how to prevent and end rape culture, various conversations that all lead to this culture of care. But the three things selected for the next 2 days are very specific to the Kiwanis Key Club culture of care, and we'll talk about why that's important. So again, thank you for coming back. I truly appreciate it. When I ask for responses, please do me a favor and type them in the chat box. If you have a burning question that you really want answered, but maybe not pertinent to the conversation that we're currently having, please feel free to type that in the Q&A box. If we have a few minutes at the end, I will be happy to answer those questions. All right, let me get started here. So some questions to keep in mind for this session. Why are peer relationships important? What can help me develop and maintain peer relationships? Someone said they cannot hear my audio. Can everyone else hear my audio okay?
I'm hearing you loud and clear.
Okay. Whoever said they could not hear me, it must be something going on with your computer or your device. Thank you all for the feedback. I appreciate that. So what can help me develop and maintain peer relationships? And what tips or techniques can I use to become a better communicator? So today we'll do some activities in this session, and a really cool video at the end of the session that I want to share with you that I'm really excited about. But just like the last session, we will be doing some writing of our thoughts. So please have a paper and writing utensil handy because we will be using that. And since there are so many people who have attended, just like the last session, I'll sort of have you write down your thoughts on a piece of paper, and then I will give you a prompt. And based on that prompt, you will share your message in the chat box. So for example, if I say, share your thoughts if you're wearing the color black today, or share your thoughts if you're right-handed, whatever the prompt may be, it sort of makes it easier for me to filter through the messages because there's so many folks. So first, an activity. I am going to read some prompts to you. And if that statement is true for you, I want you to just type Y in the box, okay, in the chat box. So I'm going to read a statement. If the statement is true for you, just go ahead and type Y in the chat box. I can name all 4 Beatles. Quite a few Y's, okay. I have traveled to at least 10 different US states. I have stepped foot on more than 2 continents. I have 4 names. So meaning you have 2 middle names, 4 names. I have changed attire. I have read all of the Hunger Game books. The movies don't count, it has to be the books. I have broken a bone in the past 4 years. I have more than 1 sibling. I enjoy writing poetry. I believe in social justice and consider myself a leader in my school. I have gone away to summer camp. I have seen the musical Hamilton. If you haven't, you can stream it this Friday on Disney. Super excited about that. I know how many keys are on a piano. So if you were in the last session, we talked about some very similar activities, and we talked about why an activity like this is important. One of the things we talked about is getting to know each other. So getting to know each other is a part of boundaries, but it's also a part of effective communication. And I just have a quick question for you all. Some of you all answered this in the last one. This is a chance for other folks to answer. I want you to write down why it's important to get to know someone. Write it down on a piece of paper. Why is it important to get to know someone? A lot of folks. I hit a happy nerve with Hamilton. I love it. I love all the Hamilton fans. Go ahead and write down on a piece of paper why it's important to get to know someone. If your name starts with the letter Z, Z as in zoo, please write down your response to that. Anyone's name starts with the letter Z? If your name starts with the letter Z, why is it important to get to know someone? We don't have anyone who starts with the letter Z, anyone who starts with the letter Y. If your name starts with the letter Y, why is it important to get to know someone? So you don't perceive them a different way, to understand them and their experiences. There we go, Zoe. It's important to learn a lot from others because we can learn a lot from many different people. Awesome. Thank you. Let's do the letter S. If your name starts with the letter S, why is it important to get to know people? To know their boundaries, to be able to truly understand their situation, in order to understand their actions, okay? So you can understand and help them better, to understand why they feel the way they feel, to foster stronger interactions. You can have insights, to connect and discover shared experiences. Awesome answers. Communicate better, to widen your worldview and understand others. I love it. You can connect with the experience. Awesome answers, you all. Can I just say that I truly loved your responses, the insightfulness behind them, the thoughtfulness behind them, truly makes me wish that we were there in person together in the same physical space. Hopefully there is a time, some point in the near future, where we can all be together and we can all learn from each other, because I think that you all are some incredible people and you have some very insightful things to say. So thank you for sharing. Thank you for everyone who shared their thoughts. As many people said, getting to know someone is important because, as we said in the previous session, it can stop stereotypes, prejudice. It can expand your worldview. It can help you understand other people's situations a little bit better. And getting to know people truly increases our empathy. Take the time to get to know someone, we can understand where they're coming from, why they feel the way that they feel, why they do the things that they do. It's important that we take those steps because that's truly helpful when we're talking about sort of this effective communication. So as we talk about peer communication today, keep in the back of your mind empathy, thinking about what other people are going through, thinking about putting yourself in someone else's shoes and why that's so important. Thank you all for sharing that. I appreciate it. Now that you know me, can we be friends. Not many of you will get this reference, but some people will. Not gonna lie, I put it in here. I was laughing because I have a lot of dad jokes. You know, I do my thing with dad jokes. So now that we know each other, can we be friends? Let's talk a little bit about peer relationships. Okay, if your name starts with the letter B, B as in Burton, can you please give me an example of why relationships are a good thing? Why are relationships a good thing? If your name starts with the letter B, let's hear from you. Can teach us lessons that we can use later in life. Awesome, yep. Very true. All right, I'm gonna try and catch up with you all. They just came in very quickly. Let's see. In order to understand, nope, that's the last one. Sorry. Went back too far. Makes everyone feel special. You don't feel like you're alone. Experiences can change our perspective and can help us empathize with others. They also give us the opportunity to help someone else grow and overcome hardships. So you have people that you can rely on and support you. Relationships are a good thing because they give you the opportunity to learn and grow from someone. Because you are able to learn from others and develop your own self. Awesome answers. Because it's someone who can understand you and help you through hard times, fulfill social needs and the desire to express feelings and emotions. Love it. Learn to interact, build trust, start conversations, and respect people. Awesome answers. Helps develop who we are as a person, and having relationships deepens our understanding of others. Beautiful answers, I love it. So one of the reasons why relationships are a good thing and why they're important is because at our core, all humans crave that interaction. We crave the interaction to have that deeper relationship with people. Everyone needs that connection. On some level, everyone needs that connection, and we find those connections in relationships. An example of what a good friendship is made of and what it means to be a good friend. Since we are getting a little bit low on time already, some examples of what a good friendship is made of or what it means to be a good friend. A good friendship has trust, it has caring, compassion, empathy for each other, being there when someone needs you, many different scenarios of what it means to be a friend. We're going to talk a little bit about that, and a little bit more about what real friendship is. And this is pertinent to being a leader in your key club, because many of the folks in your club are friends, but also what does that look like to your peers? Someone who may not be a close friend, but how can you form a relationship with that person? How can you form a connection with that person, even if they're not your friend? So good friendships can be complex because they consist of many different characteristics. If you are wearing shorts today, can you please name any characteristics that make up a good friendship? If you're wearing shorts, trust, a lot of trust just came in. Honesty, good communication, loyalty, acceptance, empathy, laughter, I love it. Communication, respect, loyal, sympathy, sense of humor, direct communication, dependable, compassion, being supportive for a cause, similar interests, same hobbies, kindness. Love these answers, y'all. Supportive, relatable, being genuine, understanding, reliability. Everything that you all just named. common interest, feeling comfortable with sharing private thoughts, understanding each other. You all created the list before I even put it up here, because we know what good friends look like. Why are we not striving to seek those in other people? Sometimes friendships can really try us. Sometimes they can be very trying if someone doesn't have the same shared values or same views. And sometimes it's worth it to stay in and fight for that friendship. And sometimes it's okay if we grow apart from someone. I think oftentimes we look at a peer relationship and we want to fight until the very end for a relationship, when it's okay for sometimes for people to grow apart. That's a part of life, and that's something that's not always easy to accept or to look at, but we will talk more about what that looks like as far as being a leader and as far as sort of modeling that behavior to other people when you think of that effective communication piece. So we're going to do an activity. I want you all to take out that same piece of paper that you've been writing on for 2 sessions now. And I want you to write down, what characteristics do you bring to a peer relationship? What characteristics do you personally bring to a peer relationship? I'm going to give you a couple seconds to write that down. What characteristics do you bring to a peer relationship? The comedic relief. I personally don't want a friend that I can't laugh with. I mean, that's a big part of my friendships is laughter, so I understand. Next, I want you to write down, what characteristics are you looking for in a friend? So write down on that piece of paper, what characteristics are you looking for in a friend? Always be ready to listen, open-minded, trustworthy, honesty, compassionate, dependable, A1s for the day ones, someone who shares the same values, funny, loyal, creative, humble. Humble is the one that we've seen. I like that. Same sense of humor, patience, stands up for others. Okay, so lastly, what characteristics are you not looking for in a friend? What are you not looking for in a friend? What don't you want to see? Why are you egotistical, dishonest, jealousy, ignorant, selfish, fake, disrespect, arrogance, competitive, manipulative, rude, not caring, not willing to listen? Perfect. What a great list. Closed-minded, toxic, very good list. Poor communication. So what were some of the positive characteristics that we heard? I saw a lot of trust, a lot of loyalty, empathy, caring for others, having shared values. Some of the negative ones that we heard, sort of the pessimistic, lying, not trustworthy, not there for you when you need them, egotistical, and I think the one that I read the most, the characteristic that I heard the most was trust, how important trust was. Not only for you to bring that to a relationship, but looking for that in a relationship as well. And trust is something that we need in all of our relationships, whether it be family, friends, romantic, casual, whatever the friendship may be, whatever the relationship may be, we are always looking for that level of trust, and that will always be something that's important to us. So I'm curious, why do you all think this activity is important? Why do you think it's important to talk about your values, your shared values, what you value in a friendship? Why is that an important thing to do? To help you become a better friend? We forget the things we deserve. I love that answer. We're establishing a comfort zone. Sharing is caring. So we can make better decisions. We can help establish boundaries. You need to know what you're looking for in a friend as well as your own. Evaluate yourself. I love it. It's good to know what you need from a relationship. It's It's good to know what you can bring, knowing your values, knowing your self-worth. We can help others as well. Having everyone's answers makes you realize that everyone wants the same basic things in a relationship. It's a really great answer, as well as who is around you. Understand people's values in creating a friendship. Love these answers. Man, y'all are really blowing me away with these answers today. We want to be trusted and understood. Good to learn how to better yourself, to maintain self-love, self-worth. Yes, thank you. So for the last few minutes, I want to talk a little bit about how we can communicate better. So we talked about the shared values and why that's important when building a friendship. How can we communicate with our friends and peers better? What does that look like? And I came across this video a little while ago, and it's a woman named Celeste, who is a public broadcaster, has been in the field for a very long time, is a professional interviewer, and she sort of just gives this TED talk about how to better communicate, like to be a better communicator. And I thought to myself, I can't say this any more eloquently than she does, so I want to share this video with you all. I'm going to play the first second or so just to ensure that everybody can hear my computer audio okay. So if you hear the YouTube video, do me a favor and just type yes in the chat box, and that will be very helpful for me. Okay. Let's get this down. Sorry, I'm trying to move things around over here. Okay, if you can hear this audio from the YouTube video, just go ahead and type yes. So several yeses, perfect, perfect. Okay, I'm gonna go ahead and play this. If you want to jot down your thoughts, you can. But I'd love to have a discussion about this afterwards. So if anything resonates with you or stands out to you, go ahead and write that down or try to remember it, and then we can talk about it afterwards.
Before this becomes a different kind of talk, I'm going to say that. All right, I want to see a show of hands. How many of you have ever unfriended someone on Facebook because they said something offensive about politics or religion, childcare, food? And how many of you know at least one person that you avoid because you just don't want to talk to them? You know, it used to be that in order to have a polite conversation, we just had to follow the advice of Henry Higgins and My Fair Lady, stick to the weather and your health. But these days, with climate change and anti-vaxxing, those subjects are not safe either. So this world that we live in, this world in which every conversation has the potential to devolve into an argument where our politicians have someone fighting both.
I'm going to try and adjust that really quickly.
Both passionately for it and against it. It's not normal. Pew Research did a study of 10,000 American adults, and they found that at this moment we are more polarized, we are more divided than we ever have been in history. We're less likely to compromise, which means we're not listening to each other, and we make decisions about where to live, who to marry, and even who our friends are going to be based on what we already believe. Again, that means we're not listening to each other. A conversation requires a balance between talking and listening, and somewhere along the way we lost that balance. Now, part of that is due to technology, the smartphones that you all either have in your hands or close enough that you could grab them really quickly. According to Pew Research, about a third of American teenagers send more than 100 texts a day, and many of them, almost most of them, are more likely to text their friends than they are to talk to them face to face. There's this great piece in The Atlantic. It was written by a high school teacher named Paul Barnwell. And he gave his kids a communication project. He wanted to teach them how to speak on a specific subject without using notes. And he said this: I came to realize that conversational competence might be the single most overlooked skill we fail to teach. Kids spend hours each day engaging with ideas and each other through screens, but rarely do they have an opportunity to hone their interpersonal communication skills. It might sound like a funny question, but we have to ask ourselves, is there any 21st century skill more important than being able to sustain coherent, confident conversation? Now, I make my living talking to people. Nobel Prize winners, truck drivers, billionaires, kindergarten teachers, heads of state, plumbers. I talk to people that I like. I talk to people that I don't like. I talk to some people that I disagree with deeply on a personal level, but I still have a great conversation with them. So I'd like to spend the next 10 minutes or so teaching you how to talk and how to listen. Many of you have already heard a lot of advice on this. Things like look the person in the eye, think of interesting things, topics to discuss in advance, nod and smile to show that you're paying attention. Repeat back what you just heard or summarize it. So I want you to forget all of that. It is crap. There is no reason to learn how to show you're paying attention if you are, in fact, paying attention. Now, I actually use the exact same skills as a professional interviewer that I do in regular life. So I'm going to teach you how to interview people, and that's actually going to help you learn how to be better conversationalists. Learn to have a conversation without wasting your time, without getting bored, and please God, without offending anybody. We've all had really great conversations. We've had them before. We know what it's like. The kind of conversation where you walk away feeling engaged and inspired, or where you feel like you've made a real connection or you've been perfectly understood. There is no reason why most of your interactions can't be like that. So I have 10 basic rules. I'm going to walk you through all of them, but honestly, if you just choose one of them and master it, you're already going to enjoy better conversations. Number 1, don't multitask. And I don't mean just set down your cell phone or your tablet or your car keys or whatever's in your hand. I mean, be present. Be in that moment. Don't be thinking about your argument you had with your boss. Don't be thinking about what you're going to have for dinner. If you want to get out of the conversation, get out of the conversation. But don't be half in it and half out of it. Number 2, don't pontificate. If you want to just state your opinion without any opportunity for response or argument or pushback or growth, write a blog. Now, there's a really good reason why I don't allow pundits on my show, because they're really boring. If they're a conservative, they're going to hate Obama and food stamps and abortion. If they're a liberal, they're going to hate big banks and oil corporations and Dick Cheney. Totally predictable. And you don't want to be like that. You need to enter every conversation assuming that you have something to learn. The famed therapist Eb Scott Peck said that true listening requires a setting aside of oneself. And sometimes that means setting aside your personal opinion. He said that sensing this acceptance, the speaker will become less and less vulnerable and more likely to open up the inner recesses of his or her mind to the listener. Again, assume that you have something to learn. Bill Nye, everyone you will ever meet knows something that you don't. I put it this way: everybody is an expert in something. Number 3, use open-ended questions. In this case, take a cue from journalists. Start your questions with who, what, where, when, why, or how. If you put in a complicated question, you're going to get a simple answer out. If I ask you, were you terrified? You're going to respond to the most powerful word in that sentence, which is terrified, and the answer is, yes, I was, or no, I wasn't. Were you angry? Yes, I was very angry. Let them describe it. They're the ones that know. Try asking them things like, what was that like? How did that feel? Because then they might have to stop for a moment and think about it, and you're going to get a much more interesting response. Number 4, go with the flow. That means thoughts will come into your mind, and you need to let them go out of your mind. We've heard interviews often in which a guest is talking for several minutes and then the host comes back in and asks a question which seems like it comes out of nowhere or it's already been answered. That means the host probably stopped listening 2 minutes ago because he thought of this really clever question and he was just bound and determined to say that. And we do the exact same thing. We're sitting there having a conversation with someone, and then we remember that time that we met Hugh Jackman in a coffee shop. And we stop listening. We're just waiting for a moment to interject our story about Hugh Jackman and coffee. Stories and ideas are going to come to you. You need to let them come and let them go. Number 5, if you don't know, say that you don't know. Now, people on the radio, especially on NPR, are much more aware that they're going on the record. And so they're more careful about what they claim to be an expert in and what they claim to know for sure. Do that. Err on the side of caution. Talk should not be cheap. Number 6, don't equate your experience with theirs. If they're talking about having lost a family member, don't start talking about the time that you lost a family member. If they're talking about the trouble that they're having at work, don't tell them about how much you hate your job. It's not the same. It is never the same. All experiences are individual. And more importantly, it is not about you. You don't need to take that moment to prove how amazing you are or how much you've suffered. Somebody asked Stephen Hawking once what his IQ was, and he says, I have no idea. People who brag about their IQs are losers. Conversations are not a promotional opportunity. Number 7, try not to repeat yourself. It's condescending and it's really boring. And we tend to do it a lot, especially in work conversations or in conversations with our kids. We have a point to make, so we just keep rephrasing it over and over. Don't do that. Number 8, stay out of the weeds. Frankly, people don't care about the years, the names, the dates, all those details that you're struggling to come up with in your mind. They don't care. What they care about is you. They care about what you're like, what you have in common. So forget the details. Leave them out. Number 9, this is not the last one, but it is the most important one. Listen. I cannot tell you how many really important people have said that listening is perhaps the number one most important skill that you could develop. Buddha said, and I'm paraphrasing, if your mouth is open, you're not learning. And Calvin Coolidge said, no man ever listened his way out of a job. Why do we not listen to each other? Number 1, we'd rather talk. When I'm talking, I'm in control. I don't have to hear anything I'm not interested in. I'm the center of attention. I can bolster my own identity. But there's another reason. We get distracted. The average person talks at about 225 words per minute, but we can listen at up to 500 words per minute. So our minds are filling in those other 275 words. And look, I know it takes effort and energy to actually pay attention to someone. But if you can't do that, you're not in a conversation. You're just two people shouting out barely related sentences in the same place. You have to listen to one another. Stephen Covey said it very beautifully. He said, most of us don't listen with the intent to understand. We listen with the intent to reply. One more rule, and number 10, and it's this one. Be brief. This boils down to the same basic concept, and it is this one. Be interested in other people. You know, I grew up with a very famous grandfather, and there was kind of a ritual in my home. People would come over to talk to my grandparents, and after they would leave, my mother would come over to us and she'd say, do you know who that was? She was the runner-up to Miss America. He was the mayor of Sacramento. She won a Pulitzer Prize. He's a Russian ballet dancer. And I kind of grew up assuming everyone has some hidden amazing thing about them. And honestly, I think it's what makes me a better host. I keep my mouth shut as often as I possibly can. I keep my mind open, and I'm always prepared to be amazed, and I'm never disappointed. You do the same thing. Go out, talk to people, listen to people, and most importantly, be prepared to be amazed. Thanks.
All right, y'all, thank you for sitting through that. I apologize about the audio and maybe the quality of the video, not awesome. My apologies for that. I saw a few people mention that they would like the link to that video. I think I have the link right here. I do. But also these presentations will be available to Kiwanis once this is over. It will be sent to them, and I believe they will be sent to attendees as well. So you all should have access to all of these things once everything is completed. But if you want to write down the link, it's right there. I really love the video. I love her message. I love everything she had to say. I will say personally, I didn't care for the quote at the very end comparing to a mini skirt, but that's just my own personal feelings. But everything else I really connected with. Is there anything that stood out or resonated with anyone from the video? I really like how she said most of us listen with the intent to reply instead of, that also stands out with me all the time. I caught myself wanting to believe I wasn't guilty of poor communication, listening without actively thinking. I think that's something that we all do, is thinking of a response when we're having a conversation instead of actively listening to that person. Don't equate your experience. That does stand out as well. I think because we are all kind-hearted folks and we want to show our empathy for other people and show our sympathy, we oftentimes try to equate our experience with theirs. That's a very typical thing to do, but oftentimes that can minimize somebody else's experience because it's sort of saying, oh, I've done that too, even though we don't mean it that way. I like that she puts that in there. Listening without actively thinking. Everything she said was true. Makes me realize how little I listen every day. This was actually a self-realization for me as well, how I'm often thinking of a response, formulating a response when someone is talking to me, how I'm not actively listening to them. I have to catch myself doing it quite a bit. She hits both sides of the political spectrum with her jokes. She definitely balance between talking and listening is great. Everybody has a talent or skill or something cool to bring to the table. I did like that too. All experiences are different, so do not compare yours to others. Be prepared to be amazed. I love that. To state to when you don't know something is it people need to hear and listen to. Having conversations to understand, not to reply. Awesome. Awesome messages. I like how she is direct. She's very direct. When she said that we can listen to 500 plus words per minute, but can only talk 200 plus words per minute. Very good responses. Awesome, you all. And I have her list. Her name is Celeste Headley, if anyone would like to Google her. Here's her list. Don't multitask. Don't pontificate, which is to express an opinion in a condescending manner. Use open-ended questions. Start questions with who, what, when, where, why, how. I like that she simplified it. She was like, don't ask this really long-worded question because someone can just say yes or no or just agree with whatever the prevailing theme is. When you ask the open-ended questions to someone, it makes them self-reflect and think about how did I feel in that moment. When we start thinking about our feelings when we're talking, that's when we're bringing up the true conversation. That's when we're having deeper, more meaningful conversations. Go with the flow. If you do not know, say that you do not know. I often have to catch myself doing this. I try and come up with a response, even though I'm like, you know what, I really don't know that, but I'll find out for you. That's something that we can do as leaders, leaders in your club and in your community. If you don't know something, it's totally okay. Just say that you don't know. Say that you'll find out for that person, or you may be able to point them in the right direction. 6, don't equate your experience with theirs. It's never the same, ever. Everyone is different. Everyone's experiences are different. We can literally all be in the same room together. One event happens. We all perceive it differently. We all respond to it differently. Everyone's experience in that moment is going to be different. So when we equate our experiences with other people's experiences, like I said, it can sort of minimize it for them that they experience this very unique situation. Try not to repeat yourself to get your point across. Stay out of the weeds. The details don't matter that much. People care about you. My wife would hate me if she knew that I was saying this, but oftentimes she gets caught up in the weeds of telling the details of every little single thing that has happened, when I just want the meat and potatoes of the story. You know, just tell me about you. Tell me about the actual event. Oftentimes people get caught up in, well, I have to tell the details X, Y, and Z, when it doesn't need to be that way. People just want to know about you. If your mouth is open, that you're not listening. That was a great quote too. Listen, most of us don't listen to understand, we listen to reply. Quite a few people wrote that down as resonating with them. And 10, be brief with the conversation. I think a lot of us are guilty of getting stuck in the weeds, because we think that those weeds are so important, but oftentimes they're not as important as we think they are. I'll give you all a few seconds to write these down if you would like, but again, these will be available to you. And the link for the video was previously listed, but again, her name is Celeste Headley. If you would like to Google her TED Talk. She's also a really great NPR broadcaster, has been for a very long time. She's really cool. It looks like we are over time. Oh, shoot. So I want to thank you all for being in this session today. I want to thank you for being in the previous session as well. I really feel energized to have you all here and to be having this conversation about what a culture of care is and what it looks like. And tomorrow, like I said, will be session 3 and session 4. We'll talk about bystander intervention. We'll do some scenarios and role plays. We'll talk about what that looks like, how we can stand up for other people, how we can stand up for ourselves. And then in the last session, I will do some train the trainer. I will help you all be facilitators if that's something you're interested in. So you can take this program and you can bring it back to your club, and you can have these really important conversations, and you can facilitate these activities. So thank you all so much for sharing this space with me. Thank you for being here. I've truly enjoyed your presence, and I've enjoyed your insightful comments. So thank you, thank you, thank you.